If you have just bought this book, A Course in Miracles, you opened it, read one sentence, and thought, what in the world have I gotten myself into? Then this is the video for you. I want to do a very straightforward, easy to understand introduction to A Course in Miracles, one of the most life-changing texts that I have ever encountered. I can't wait to dive in with you. My name is Anna Wickham, and I help people create a radiant life through passion, purpose, and peace. I first bought A Course in Miracles, the Kindle edition, maybe 6 years ago. I sat down, was ready to open it up and start reading, read a few sentences, and immediately thought, I am completely in over my head. This is not what I expected. I promptly closed that book and didn't open it again for another 4 or 5 years. I opened A Course in Miracles again about 1.5 years ago, and I did it because I was really in a low place in my life, feeling very depressed, low energy, no fulfillment, and I was looking for some meaning, something bigger than myself that would help me feel connected with purpose and with God. And so I picked up A Course in Miracles, and I bought the blue edition from the Foundation for Inner Peace that I was holding just a minute ago. And I committed to diving into the text, understanding it, spending time in it. And I was very inspired by people that I encountered online mostly, but also in my city, who've been studying A Course in Miracles for 20 or 30 years. And they say that they go through the workbook every year. We'll talk more about the workbook in just one second. And they still gain inspiration and fresh new insight from the text every day that they read, even having studied for 30 years. I haven't been studying A Course in Miracles for very long. That's why I think I'm the perfect person to give a very layman's term approach to this. We're not going to get super complicated, but we're going to go over all of the main principles of A Course in Miracles, how this text came to be, why it would be important in your life, and why I encourage you to take the steps to be able to access this text. So if you bought this book, you opened it up, had no clue what it was saying, if you know that experience, hit like below. Let me know that I am not alone. I'm not the only one who was in that situation. So let's start with this. What is A Course in Miracles and how did it come to be? Well, A Course in Miracles is a metaphysical spiritual text that was scribed by Helen Schucman in the 1960s in New York City. What makes it different than a regular self-help book is that the author, Helen Schucman, who was really the scribe, claims that the inspiration of everything that she wrote was channeled through her and came from God. The book focuses on a lot of psychological and spiritual principles, and some people say that some different concepts from different religions and belief systems are incorporated into the book to create a cohesive set of principles that are used to view the world. So anyone can study A Course in Miracles. You don't have to be religious. It's not a religion in itself. You can be an atheist and study A Course in Miracles. You can be a Christian and study A Course in Miracles, or you can use it standalone as your spiritual walk of life, which is a big part of what I do. The book helps you change your perception and your mindset so that the way you perceive the world is different. And when you perceive the world differently, then the way you feel changes. And I'm going to go into a little bit more about that in just a few moments. Here's the story of how A Course in Miracles came to be. So Helen Schucman, she was working with her coworker, Bill Thetford, in New York City at Columbia University. They were professionals in the psychology department. And these two did not get along. They clashed, they were constantly fighting and arguing and had a really difficult professional relationship. One day, Bill said to Helen that there must be another way. And Helen attributes that comment to triggering something in her mind. Maybe there is another way. What if there was another way? So she started having dreams, visions, thoughts in her head of some different things that were popping into her mind, she heard a voice that told her to write this down. So she started taking notes on the visions and the thoughts that she was having. So she would have thoughts that came from God, and she would start taking shorthand notes on it. She told Bill about this, and he surprisingly said, "Hey, I want to help you." So they started this 7-year process. This started in 1965 and it finished in 1972. So for 7 years, Helen would take notes in shorthand and then Bill would type them out. And they went through this process for 7 years. And the final result was the book, A Course in Miracles. So when I started learning this, I'm not going to lie, I thought, what on earth? But my personal take on it is that I believe many things are inspired by God. A lot of people don't feel that way, but I believe that anything that's peace and love and helps us see through love and forgiveness is truth. And that God speaks to us through many different ways. I believe that anyone who's willing to be used by God as a channel for his work is capable of producing work that is channeled by God. So I don't really view this as an exclusive relationship with God. And I don't believe that Helen viewed it that way either, that this is the only book that's inspired by God and her God is right and other gods are wrong. That's not the mindset of A Course in Miracles. And in fact, Helen herself said that A Course in Miracles is not for everyone. Helen and the other leaders in A Course in Miracle movement are also pretty adamant that churches are not created for the teachings of A Course in Miracles, that there are not churches and large buildings. So this has remained a grassroots kind of event since its inception. And to this day, there are many, many, many study groups across the country that meet and study the book. It's not a very organized thing. It's extremely grassroots. A Course in Miracles has 3 sections in the book. I think originally it came out with 3 different physical books, but it's now in one big book, and that big book has these 3 sections. 1, it has the text. 2, the workbook, and 3, the manual for teachers. The text is very dense. It kind of reads like the Bible or reads like a chapter book. So there's quite a lot of text. There's different sections and chapters. And the content does seem to be pretty dense. The language in this book is a little heavy, but once you get used to reading it, it becomes easier and easier to understand what the text is trying to say. The workbook has 365 lessons, and you're meant to read 1 lesson every day of the year. Typically, people start over every year. You can start over on January 1st. What I do is I'm just gonna go and read a lesson a day. If I miss a day, then no problem. I'm gonna read the next lesson. So if I read lesson 2, I actually miss a day, then I'll pick up on the next day on lesson 3. And I'm going to keep going until I'm finished with all 365 lessons, and then I'm going to start over again, even if that's not on January 1st, and it probably won't be. It's up to you how you want to study the workbook, and I think I may have to do another video on how to study A Course in Miracles, because I believe having the right approach to the text will help you understand it better and apply it to your life better. But for now, the workbook has 365 lessons, and they're really pretty short. 1 or 2 pages probably takes 10 or 15 minutes to read a lesson. And the 3rd section is the manual for teachers. Now, you might think it's kind of like being a yoga teacher where you have to get a special certification and only certain people are teachers. But in the view of A Course in Miracles teaching, all of us are teachers, because once we receive the understanding that we've received from A Course in Miracles, we are now teachers out in the world, teaching people these concepts of love, forgiveness, and light, not so much directly, but in how we live. Basically, the manual for teachers is all about shining your light so that you can be more of a leader for others once you have already started being a leader in your own life. A Course in Miracles was a crucial integral part of my own healing journey. And I recently published a video on my healing journey that I will link in the description box below if you want to learn more about that and how A Course in Miracles was a part of my overall healing process. Now let's cover some of the major principles from A Course in Miracles so that you can understand what it is exactly you would be learning if you determine to embark on studying this text. The way I would describe A Course in Miracles to someone who doesn't have any exposure to it is with these two sentences. Only love is real. Everything else is an illusion. So what A Course in Miracles means by that is that the book has a non-duality approach to morality. Instead of believing a duality approach, kind of like traditional Christianity, that there is good and there is evil. In a non-duality world, in A Course in Miracles, the book says only love is real. So there is good and then nothing else is real. There is nothing else. It seems like there is evil in the world, but that evil, it's just an illusion. It doesn't exist at all. It's a very persistent illusion, but it's not real. So obviously the Course acknowledges that evil is a very real thing in the world, but the book is all about changing our perception. When we operate like we only see the love in us and the bad things in us, they don't really exist, and the same goes for everyone else on earth, then we can live in such a more peaceful place. A Course in Miracles talks a lot about guiltlessness. What that means is that nothing bad that I've ever done is real in the mindset that is cultivated through A Course in Miracles. And nothing bad that you've ever done is real. It might be real in this earth, but in the spiritual realm, those things don't exist. And so we are not guilty, and neither is anyone else. So we can be relieved of the guilt, the regret, the rumination that we often have about choices we've made in the past or about hurting people. And actually, one of my favorite sentences in the entire book sums it up really well. And it says, "Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God." You might be wondering, what is a miracle? Of course, we think miracle is someone who can't walk starts walking, or someone who was dead is now raised from the dead. But that's not how A Course in Miracles looks at a miracle. A miracle is simply a change in perception. There's someone who's your enemy, but when you're able to look on them and see them with love and see the things that are good in them and know that only those things really matter, that is that change of perception. That is a miracle. That is a miracle, because it may be something small and it may be only in our minds, but it changes everything. Imagine one small change in perception by one key person could be the difference between a war actually starting and a war actually being diverted. A small change in perception in just one person could be the difference between a couple that decides to stay married and a couple that decides to divorce. That's a huge life decision that could be changed with a perception. One of the biggest concepts in A Course in Miracles is the concept of love versus fear. The book boils down every kind of emotion and every good, evil idea into those two things. So anger, it's really just fear that you're not going to get what you want, so you become angry, or fear that something bad is going to happen, and so you become angry. Sadness, that's just fear that things aren't going to turn out the way that you want them. Depression, grief, negativity, any bad feeling emotion is just fear. What that does is it really takes the onus of intention off of the person experiencing the emotion. They are not angry, they're not vindictive, they're not vengeful or evil. They're just deep down, they're really just afraid. On the other hand, passion, peace, all of those really can be boiled down to love. And remember, in the Course, there is love and there is fear, but fear, again, doesn't exist because that would be duality. In a non-dual viewpoint, only love is real. A Course in Miracles talks a lot about forgiveness as well. And there's a lot of words like forgiveness and miracle in the book that mean something totally different in A Course in Miracles than they do in other spiritual walks. And forgiveness is a great example of that. Forgiveness in A Course in Miracles does not mean that I see you've done something bad and I'm going to forgive you. I'm going to pardon you for that. Instead, in that non-duality viewpoint, forgiveness means it looks to me like you've done something bad, but I know that all bad things are just an illusion. So I'm not going to pardon you for this bad thing you did. I'm going to remind myself that you did not do anything at all. This doesn't mean that we don't set boundaries or we let people walk all over us or that we let people treat us any way they want. A Course in Miracles is not really about the external behavior. It's more about our internal perception and how we think about something. So forgiveness is acknowledging that even though it looks like you did something wrong to me, then actually you didn't do anything wrong at all because only love is real. And the same goes for me. I might be having a hard time forgiving myself for something that I perceive that I did wrong, but actually, if only love is real, then that bad thing I did, it didn't exist. So I don't need to pardon myself for that bad thing I did. I need to, remember that that thing didn't exist at all. In A Course in Miracles, the text reminds us that nothing in this world has any meaning except for the meaning that we give it. This is the very first concept that you learn if you start in the workbook, lesson 1, 2, 3. It's all about acknowledging that things that we see out in the world are just a reflection of our inner world and our mindset. So some practical examples of this is if you got a keepsake, let's say a jewelry box from your grandmother as an heirloom before she died, that jewelry box would have a lot of meaning for you. But that meaning is not implicit in the object itself. The object itself is just a jewelry box. But for you, because of your perception and the meaning that you give it, which all happens in your mind, that changes the meaning of that object for you from a jewelry box to a priceless family heirloom. And in fact, a jewelry box, even that is applying meaning to something. Because if you were an alien and you landed on this earth and you had never seen anything on earth before, you would not look at a jewelry box and think, oh, that's a jewelry box, that's for you to put jewelry in. No, it's made of wood. You might think that it's square. You might think that it opens. But even the idea that it's a jewelry box at all only happens in our minds. What this reminds us of is that we have the power to change our perception and our mindset about anything without changing that circumstance outside of us at all. We are able to change the meaning of that stimulus for us, and it can change our mindset completely. If you're looking to incorporate more inspiration and spiritual connection into your daily life in a very practical way, I encourage you to check out a video that I created called 6 Habits to Change Your Life. And that could give you some ideas on how you might incorporate A Course in Miracles into your personal daily spiritual practice. I hope this video has helped you understand the primary principles in A Course in Miracles in a straightforward, easy way. Let me know in the comments below how you experience the text, and I will see you guys soon.